I'd say, and even for, speaking for the guys in the house today and nationwide, it's a thing of pride. It's a macho thing. Firefighters do not want to go to rehab. They do not, because what does it do? It takes them away from the action. If they get sent to rehab, it's usually they've gone through a two bottle working cycle, and so now their buddies or another agency gets to go play with their fire, and it's a big thing of pride. So you may get some reluctance or some resistance from some guys that want to go to rehab, but it's good to see, like I said, you're here to facilitate, make things happen. So any questions you have for me or for my crew today? Sounds like you're going to do more of a theory thing today as far as rehab, getting to kind of know the science behind what rehab is and everything. And it sounds like next week I will be here next week as well to with another crew to help facilitate some more of the tactics, things that we're going to look for, things we're going to expect of you, anything you have expectations from the fire service side. So any questions? I'm in house all day unless you see us flying out front doors. Our house is your house, so feel free to mingle upstairs on a break. Come say hi to the crew upstairs. So be our guests. So thanks for being here. Enjoy your Saturday morning. You bet.
All right, we have a lot to get through today, and as we emphasized several times, this is an experiment. This is the first time we're running through this. We're not sure how the time will lay out. We think we have enough time to cover everything on our slideshow today. So that's one of the reasons we're recording, so people who can't make it today will be able to get here. We'll be able to watch this content. Next week, as he mentioned, we'll be doing some of the tactical hands-on work, how we work on the pickup, how we hitch that up to the trailer, how we operate the radio, etc. So this week, we're kind of giving more of a background and a high-level overview. If you noticed on the sign-in table, there was a QR code. That was for the participant guide. Now that's the FEMA official participant guide. It covers a lot of detail. It covers how a rehab operation would work at a large scale. Ours is a smaller scale operation, but that kind of deep dives into a lot of other material so that you may understand where this program can go or grow. And if you're from a different community, say Spanish Fork, I know several of you from Spanish Fork or Linden, going into that participant guide will kind of give you a better idea of the other options that your particular fire department will want to experiment with or use you for. So get going, see if the clicker works. Oh, come on. Okay, introductions. First, let's do staff and we'll go around the room and we'll introduce ourselves and then just introduce yourself and maybe what city you're from. Kind of keep it simple. I'm Mike Sawyer. I'm the interim program manager for Springville CERT, although I live in Orem. Weird.
Carrie Beardall. I'm Springville Servisaurus because I took CERT like 25 years and I'm still hanging around. I'm also reservist for FEMA, so I work disasters all across the nation.
I'm Stephen. I'm from Springville. I'm a new CERT. Here to learn what I can.
And to teach.
And to attempt to teach what I can.
Your staff, Kevin.
Oh. I barely did anything for this group. I usually do on more of the CERT courses. I'm Gavin Grow. I'm also adopted by the program.
Joan Larson, emergency management coordinator for Springville City, and I love it.
I'm Dale Harrison, recently moved to Springville, recently went to CERT, now I'm drafted into the instructors. So,
it's also a former firefighter. So
been more firefighter for years, but I had to give it up to the young guy.
Catherine.
Oh, hi. I'm Catherine. Springville, just been here since we moved before I lived at Fort. But thanks for being here.
Let's start at the back for the rest of you. Angie, sure. If you want.
I'm Angie Henderson, and I am the program manager.
I'm Kurt Beardall. I've lived here in Springville all my life, and I do what my wife tells me to do.
Service Berries, Spanish Fork City Emergency Management.
Kelly Johnson, I'm the Linden City Emergency Manager. I also am the chair of the Utah County LEPC, which means I work with the Special Response Team, which is all of the fire people who are technically trained to do all of your technical rescue, so your high angle confined space, hazmat, trench, all that kind of stuff. So this is gonna be interesting. I'd like to be able to take some information back to that, see maybe what's in there as well.
Miss Thompson, CERT, when did we talk? Karen, Springville. It took us 10 years ago, so not quite as, dinosaur level, but more like I should be taking it again level.
Misty Zog, we just moved here from Michigan.
I can't give some Spanish work. Sir.
Sean Sullivan, License 1.
I'm Donna Ferguson, I'm from Mapleton. Looking forward to hopefully taking over the director. Is that what you call yourself? The program director for CERT?
Whatever you want.
Down there, and just certified as an EMT.
Jim Bollinger from Spanish Fork. I originally certified with CERT back in Provo in 2004, so it's been a while too, but I have retaken.
My name's David Witt. I took CERT way back in the 90s, and so just this last week, I took the entire online course again, and so I'd have a little certification so that no one would say the word refresher.
And where are you from?
I have a place in Salt Lake and in Utah.
My name's Dimitri from Nico, in high school, and here.
Oh, she's not here today. That's awesome. My name is Marie Paul, and I'm from Linden, and I've only been involved in CERT for the last year and a half. So, I love it.
I hired the CERT, managed to work. Been a long time.
I'm Samantha Farley from Lehigh, and I took the original course.
Did we get everybody? Yes.
I want to brag on my 3 Linden people. All 3 of them did not introduce themselves on fire.
Oops. Yay. I wasn't sure.
Thank you. And Dimitri, was it?
Yeah.
There's a couple of teenager jokes in here, so don't take it personally, all right? All right. Great. All right, so the fire chief here, Chief Clinton, has approached Joanna Larson to ask about the CERTs helping with firefighter rehab. Currently, firefighters self-rehab, so they take care of it themselves. But like you heard Captain say, firefighters will always say they're okay, or I'm fine. So we're not there to be the enforcement at all, because EMS will be there doing that for us, but we're there to help. And this is kind of how we'll introduce it. First, breaks about halfway through-ish. We're going to aim for a 5 or 10 minute break. Bathrooms are right across the lobby there. Emergency exits, lobby each end, or through here, through the garage. Let's see, smoking policy, you know that, it's common everywhere in the state. Silence your cell phones, please. Module completion requirements. So for this module, we have 2 classes. Today is more background and concepts. Next week is more tactics. So next week we'll be covering the physical, working on the pickup, the trailer. And sign-in sheet. If you haven't signed in at the table out there, please do so at the break. They'll also be asking for t-shirt sizes. So if you're going to be part of the Springville response, we want you to have an official shirt that says rehab on it, so they know who we are when we show up with our equipment. We have a service animal in the back. She is a working animal, so please don't pet her without permission. So yeah, it's really hard for me to not pet dogs. So understand at break, you can ask for permission. If not, that's fine. Wi-Fi, most important thing, it's here on the screen. Station pound 41 with a $sign for the S in station. It's also up here on the whiteboard if you decide to get that connected later. Any other questions about just how things are running here today? Okay. Also, yeah, we are recording. It's only looking up here on the screen and the instructors, so your faces aren't going to be in it, so don't worry. This is the National Fallen Firefighter Memorial, and this is at the National Emergency Training Center in Emmitsburg, Maryland. This memorializes those firefighters who died in the line of duty. And those flags fly at half staff all the time, 24/7. When I was there for some training years ago, I looked at this plaque for 1986. Under Idaho, you'll see the name Cordell Stewart. That was my crew boss. But I worked for the BLM fighting wildfires. He died in the line of duty. There were some safety guidelines he forgot or just ignored, and he rolled the fire truck and cracked his head open. The year before that, I didn't take a picture of the plaque because our names weren't on it, but me and my crew came really close to getting our names on that plaque when we drove into a fire and didn't come out. So 4 of us would have been in a lot less danger if certain key people had remembered safety precautions better and exercised their common sense a bit better. So I'm big on safety. And this is one of the reasons I'm so excited about this program. This is what's surrounding the memorial. There's a lot of marble slabs. There's a lot of space for a lot more bronze plaques and a lot more names. In rehab, our job is to help the firefighters stay healthy so they don't make mistakes, so they don't have cardiac events, so their names don't end up here. We want those plaques to be as blank as possible. And in our little corner of the country and in our little corner of the state, we can make a difference. We already know what the purpose of this module is. If you've signed up, you know that basically what rehab is, but we're also wanting you to understand a lot of the background, the whys and wherefores. So even if you're not in charge of setting up and performing a lot of the medical rehab, you know what kind of thought process goes into it. You'll learn about physiological threats to firefighters. We're not focusing on emotional, mental first aid, mental health, although that's a good thing to remember. So it's module, is it module 5 now? CERT, psychological first aid, that's a good thing to review. We'll talk about the incident scene, rehab area, and the rehab process. And we're going to cover a couple of things. We have 5 teachers total taking turns. So we'll give you the rehab process as far as how you respond and drive, and we'll also give you the process of what you actually do on site. What is firefighter rehab? I know you've all read the descriptions, but can anyone give a short summary of what rehab is? There's a lot of kinds of rehab out there, but what is firefighter rehab?
Like on-site, take care of physical or
Great, thank you. Yeah. On-site, take care of physical and other needs as requested by incident command. Great. That's important. ICS structures, we report to incident command. When we get to the site, that's going to be one of our main points of contact. This is the official definition the slide has. So, process of providing rest, rehydration, nourishment, and medical evaluation to members who are involved in extended or extreme incident scene operations. That's an important distinction to make because the fire department might go on 3, 4, or 5 runs a day, but they're small incidents. It's when it's going to be an extended response, so fatigue might set in more, that they're more interested in that rehab. Like Captain Smith said, you know, if you won't go through 2 30-minute air canisters, it's time. It's actually a guideline they have. You have to take a break. It is hot and strenuous work. Who believes that? Okay. I think most of us here have done hot and strenuous work of some type. This is different. It's probably a lot harder and it's probably a lot more strenuous than most of us have experienced. Heat stress is a big killer. Fatigue. Fatigue leads to, well, who here has done a lot of exercise or was very physically active for a while and then got, I don't know, a little wobbly or a little lightheaded? They might be going out. Yeah, firefighters are no different. When you're tired and really stressed out. Sorry for that. So we may be able to use them when they come back from that call. But yeah, sometimes in your exercise, you might realize that you're a little wobbly, you're a little less sure-footed, and when you add in a dangerous environment like a fire environment, then slips, trips, and falls become really common and dangerous. Reduce situational awareness. Sometimes you're just clueless about where people are around you, the passage of time, dangers around you. That's one of the reasons in CERT training, we have you practice a lot of those processes so thoroughly. Sometimes hot work is done in very hot or very cold conditions. So in the winter, this seems like a nightmare to me, but in the winter, when they fight fires, you know, the water does freeze. What a mess that is. But again, even in the winter time, do you think they might get overheated?
Yes.
Yeah. Fire, hot, remember that. Yeah, good equation. Okay. Fitness of the firefighter depends on a lot of things, but it's also just like fitness for the rest of us, just a little more critical for them in their circumstances because they have sudden onset of physical exercise. Hypertension, so high blood pressure, high lipids, high fat, high blood glucose, blood sugar, overweight or obesity, inactivity, and smoking. All those things can detract from your physical fitness. So if somebody read ahead, that's fine. I'll let you participate. But what are the leading causes of firefighter injury? Can anyone guess?
I would say slipping.
Slipping,
Dehydration.
dehydration, falls. All right. What about death? Firefighter death, leading causes. Cardiac heart attack, is it hypothermia or hyperthermia? Hyperthermia, overheating. Smoke inhalation. Very good. All dangers for sure. Falling objects. Unidentified falling objects. All right. About 80,000 firefighters are injured every year. Their names don't end up on those plaques. Most common causes? Well, if you categorize, if you kind of join a couple of things, overexertion and strain, which could lead to falling, tripping, or slipping. That's about half of all injuries. And those could be mitigated somewhat with more efficient rehab for the firefighters. Most common cause of death, cardiac events. Cardiac and stroke together combine to make about half of them. Yeah. So this shows that as rehab, we can participate quite a bit. We can contribute to lowering those numbers quite a bit. And like we said, you know, before or currently, the firefighters are doing self-rehab, but they're doing that when they are ready to admit that they need some hydration and they need rest, which might be long in coming. Anyway, next section, Dale will be covering. So I'll turn the clicker over to him. Do you want the clicker or do you want to use the laptop?
Trying to figure it out.
I'm going to flip the microphone.
So this is down.
Yeah. So,
All right, again, my name is Dale. I'm new to Springville, but I'm not new to firefighting. I've been firefighting for, well, I haven't been here, but I have been a firefighter for a while. So this is very, very important for me. We never really had a place like this when I was firefighting. We'd go out and sit on the curb and have a drink of water and go. So this is very important. I really like this to be able to be a part of it. Purpose for the rehab: improves performance, decreases likelihood of downside injuries and death. Basically, that's what we're there for. We're here to help just get them a chance to get out and rehydrate, give them food, help their physical and mental conditions as members. And so it doesn't jeopardize the safety and the integrity of the operation. 2 guidelines of the company and the crew: rehabilitation terms that work to rest ratio. The SCBAs, I imagine we'll be able to see later on. I don't know if you guys have ever tried on turnouts or SCBAs, which are the self-contained breathing apparatus. They are extremely heavy. firefighters have to be really physically fit. There's a lot that goes into it. So the way that the NFPA has lined out, the company or crew must self-rehab, rest and hydrate for at least 10 minutes following. They have a 30-minute with SCBA cylinder or 20 minutes of intense workout without wearing SCBA. That's what the captain was saying that they want after an SCBA. They want them to sit and rehydrate. Like he said, it's going to get really hard for them guys to give up that firefighting when they've been up there doing and working, and when they come out to change their tanks out, to set and hydrate. They don't want to do that. They want to get back in there and fight fires. You know, we're there just to give them the assistance. Okay, but it's up to the crew leader to ensure that all members are fit to return to duty before resuming operations. That is going to be the EMTs. We'll be over that, taking care of that. All we're there for is just to assist and hydrate and give them a place to get either warm or cool or whatever. Then the second one is to allow for 20 minutes after the following depletion of two 30-minute SCBA cylinders, or the depletion of 45 to 60 minutes of SCBA cylinder, or whenever they're encapsulated in chemical protection clothing, or following 40 minutes of intense work without SCBA. Okay. This is basically what the fire department and their officers and stuff like that will have them do. We won't have to worry about any of that, but this is where you're going to be coming in. You're going to be having a lot of people in a quick amount of time. Okay, you're going to have time to set up, get things going, and then that first crew, when they are done with their 30 minutes, they're going to need a place to sit. So we're going to have to activate fairly quick. 30 minutes is not very long. So we're going to have to activate, get there, get set up, be ready for them, because that first string is going to start coming. You're not going to have like one guy there and then one guy and one guy. You're going to have 5 or 6 guys there that have been in there fighting that fire that we're going to need to get set up and taken care of. A member can enter the rehab area prior to 30 minutes. Okay, but they still must be medically evaluated and drink fluids. However, the rest period can be shortened. Okay, it can be shortened to just 10 minutes. CERT member will provide critical services, rest and recovery. Okay, I feel that that's very, very important. A lot of the guys are not going to want to. I don't know what kind of equipment they have set up yet in there. We'll go over the trailer next week, but I'm sure they've got chairs, tables, drinks, stuff like that, pop-up tents. We need to give them a place that they can rest and get out. Rehydration, nourishment, documentation. Find out when they come into you. Just write it down. Say, you know what, this gentleman's been in here. Didn't see, you know, watch for those signs. Watch for signs of heat exhaustion. Talk to them. See how things are going. Try to just get them to calm down and relax. May assist in medical monitoring. That will be basically taken care of by the EMTs, but we may be asked if they get run over by, you know, 5 or 6 guys there and there's only 2 EMTs, we may have to help assist in that. Okay, what are some other situations that we may be able to be used in for rehab? Not just fires. What are some of the other things that we may do? Any ideas?
Flooding or earthquake.
Okay.
Marathons or fairs,
Okay.
rodeos.
Some of these I kind of thought about, and other things I didn't. So it's kind of interesting to going through this of actually what was actually up there. Crime scene investigations. You know, they're out there for hours and hours and hours. The police department needs a place to hydrate and nourish. Okay, criminal standoff situations. We had one here in Springville that they were there for hours. Hours and hours. When I drove by to talk to one of the officers there, I've got to be pretty good friends with, you know, they were looking for water. They were having people, the neighbors and stuff, going and getting water because they needed it. That would have been a great opportunity for us to be there. Search and rescue operations. They have their incident command, but what about nourishment for them guys? And major sports events, stuff like that. Mine was the shortest one, which was grateful. Thank you. But there is a lot. Please don't think that this job is just going to be something that we're going to roll up on and we're just going to sit there and do nothing and whatever. This is a very, very important rehab for our firemen, for our police department, for anything, if we're called out on. They need a place to get in and out of the weather. They need to get a place to sit down, relax, and be ready. It is pretty strenuous. I've been in there. That's why I kind of gave up, because I just couldn't do it anymore.
For what it's worth, the standard is interesting about the 30-minute bottles. I've never known a 30-minute bottle to last 30 minutes.
No.
They last more like 20.
Yes.
Or less if you really exerting yourself, your face trapped in that mask.
It is.
You suck air a lot.
Yep. Yep. And it is strenuous. It's a lot more added weight, not only just by your turnouts, but now you've got that. I mean, they started making them a lot lighter now, but it's still a lot of work. So, and I'm kind of excited that they'll be able to show us and see, you know, from the weight of the turnouts to the SCBA, so you can see actually how heavy that stuff is, because it is very, very strenuous. So I'm happy to see everybody here. I really am. So thank you.
Thanks, Dale. Oh, by the way, Chief said that the weight of the clothing, the turnout gear they put on without the SCBA, roughly 20 pounds of gear. Then the SCBA estimates that, is it 30 pounds? Does that sound right? So that's like a heavy backpack for me at a scout trip. But they wear that running around in the house. Physiological threats. You're kind of fill in the blanks of what we already talked about. But prolonged exposure to thermal conditions, say thermal conditions, that's extreme thermals, either heat or cold. Firefighter PPE. Now, Carrie's actually going to go into a little bit more detail about the different zones in a fire area, fire incident area, and what PPE has to be worn there. But firefighter PPE does add a lot to that stress. As trained CERTs, you've put on your vests, you put on goggles and a helmet, maybe N95 mask. Did I say gloves? Maybe boots. Is it comfortable breathing in that? Yeah, it's probably even less comfortable with all that gear on for them. So heat stress, again, this is hearkening back to your CERT training. So those of you who may have been a while since your training, like 10 years or so, this is great for you also, but anyone can refresh on this. So unit 3, I believe, signs of heat stroke or signs of heat stress and signs of cold stress, a great unit to review. Heat cramps, heat exhaustion, heavy sweating and loss of bodily fluids. They're sweating in that gear. They're losing a lot of moisture. Increased blood flow to skin, decreased blood flow to vital organs. That shows that there's your brain that handles the heating and cooling of your body is starting to get out of whack and doesn't realize that sending everything to your skin is jeopardizing your health. Heat stroke, temperature reaches over 104 degrees or higher. Who's had a kid with 104-degree temperature before? Yeah. Regardless of whatever infection is that they're battling, it's actually induced heat stroke in a way. Brain damage and death may result. Is heat stress possible? We're not going to have to make that call, really. Again, the EMTs or the EMS on site will, and they may be everyone from a level 1 EMT to a full paramedic. We don't know who our rehab group leader would be, but it would be someone in emergency medical services. But these are the kind of things that they consider, like what's the outside temperature, what's the humidity and wind. You know what wind chill is, right? In the winter, the windier it is, the colder it is. In the summer, wind might be actually cooling effect. How close are they to the flame front? So if they're in the hot zone, they're actually attacking the fire, they're exposed to a lot of heat. Well, there's such thing as radiant heat. So even if they're in the warm zone where less PPE might be required, they still might be exposed to quite a bit of heat. Are they kneeling or crawling on hot surfaces? Why would that matter?
A lot easier to transfer solid surface.
A lot easier to transfer heat from solid surfaces. Yeah, that's conduction. Is this a chemical or a flammable fuel fire? Flammable fuel fires can be more intense. And if it's as we learned in CERT, if it's a flammable metal fire, you don't even show up. All right, water and steam transfer heat many times faster than air. And most people here probably have used a hot pad to grab a hot pan out of the oven, right? And that hot pad isn't very thick. It might just have like some cotton padding in there, but does it work? Oh, it's awesome. Who here, me included, has used a moist or a wet hot pad to grab a hot pan out of the oven? Okay, what was it like? Miserable. Why was it miserable? It got up real fast. So these firefighters have wet everything. They're surrounded by wet. And this is one of those things that you'll hear more than once today is water or moisture makes hot things hotter and cold things colder. How might you know that someone is suffering from heat stress? This is related to some of the symptoms we talked about. What kind of symptoms? What kind of symptoms can you think of?
Lightheadedness.
Lightheadedness, sweating,
Unflushed aggression.
unprovoked aggression. Okay.
If they stop sweating.
Sweating, or if they stop sweating. Yeah, that's a big danger sign. Confusion. You think all these things can lead to slips and falls, bad judgment?
Yes.
I admit, I pushed the button and I'm not
You
sure
pushed
what
a
goes
button.
on.
Hold on, let's see if we can fix this. We don't want to shut down. All right. Catherine, we'll talk after. All right, these are a lot of symptoms you might have. Deep red face, you guys hit on a lot of these. Nausea or vomiting, altered mental state, shortness of breath, seizures even. What's the outside temperature? Cold stress. Man, winds can make it colder, right? And I didn't really understand this part here, so tell me if any of you guys can explain it. Temperatures between 32 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit can cause cold injuries. I don't understand why it's starting at 32.
I think it's not enough that it doesn't have.
Ah.
Have a cold injury.
Thank you. I was really confused about
We all
this.
know if it's below freezing.
So the point Samantha made, this is maybe making a point that it doesn't have to be a freezing temperature in order to do that. But of course, colder temperatures will affect you, but don't think of freezing.
I'm gonna say you're adding, just like with the heat, you're adding moisture to it. And if you get some spray on you, if you're perspiring and there's any wind or whatever, that can bring your temperature down.
You're sort of looking at the same thing that divers would face as soon as they get out of the water where the wind pull all the heat out of it.
Also, divers experience that threat too. Sudden loss of heat.
And I'll say the same thing about the temperature, but it doesn't have to be that cool. Anything under 50, you'll start, if you get exposed, wet skin to any breeze, you'll quickly go out.
So any exposure from wet skin or exposed skin to really cold temperatures, you can get a cold core temperature really quick.
And that's being generous. Remember that we run at 98.6 and people always hot, cold.
Yeah.
Anything less than 98.6.
You're going to be
Somebody's
producing.
in populations.
If anything less than 98.6 is going to bring our temperature down. Hopefully our body can coordinate that a bit. Anything higher than that, Again, nature's trying to balance things out, so there's always that balance of temperature that it's seeking. Yes, Sean?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of water on the fire ground. It doesn't have to be raining, doesn't have to be humid. In fact, very tactic in extinguishing the fires to put some water into that heat and let it turn to steam. And then that expands and carries that into places in the structure that you wouldn't be able to shoot the hose on. So there's lots of steam involved. And as soon as that cools off, you're wet.
Yeah, okay. Water can only be 212 Fahrenheit before it becomes steam. And steam, is there any limit to how hot it can be? Okay, so yeah, lots of steam. Think about water a lot, but a lot of us don't think about steam. Thank you for making that point. Might you know that someone is suffering from cold stress? Again, CERT training, Unit 3, good to review. Any thoughts? Shivering, good. Body's own defense mechanism against freezing, right? It's trying to warm up. What else? Confusion.
Lethargy.
Lethargy. Do you think those things could contribute to firefighter injury? Yeah, so warming them up help.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about what the trailer has in it later. But yeah, we have things to warm up people up. We have things to cool people down. Here's some items, additional items. Altered mental status, weakness, headache, numbness, waxing pale skin, muscle rigidity. Other conditions, just plain being dehydrated. Altered mental state and a cardiac event. Signs of dehydration. I love the first item. Expressions of thirst. I guess that's someone saying, I'm thirsty, or get me a drink. Low urine volume, dark urine or urine with a strong color. In scout camp, we taught the scouts to forget about the color because it's most conditions you're not going to be able to see what color it is. But we just made sure that, hey, are you urinating regularly? You know, if you've gone all day without needing to go, that's a big red flag.
I don't know what depending on the fire, what their situation would be for a facility. But I know when I was racing, long races, they just put in all of the porta potties, they just put a sign that said, you know, it had colors on it. And this is what this means. So that we could self-administer some liquid if
You're looking a little dark.
we're having a little issue.
Yeah.
So reminder.
The reason with our scouts we didn't tell them about the color thing was that the porta potties at scout camp had those same guides photocopied in black and white, posted. So they asked us, well, what does this mean? I'm like, well, it's not gray, so here's another thing. Signs of altered mental state. This is one of my favorites. This is the teenage joke. Okay, confusion, disorientation, loss of alertness, poor judgment, erratic thought processes, disruptions in perception and behavior. Altered mental state for a teenager. I don't know. So it's even worse maybe if they're a teenage firefighter. So it might be both. But let's move past Pedro. Signs of a cardiac event. Now, when you read through these symptoms, keep in mind that physical exertion can mask a lot of this. I had a heart attack at the age of 41. I thought I was just overdoing it because I was helping a friend move. I did a lot of the work. I was lightheaded. I was sweating profusely, feeling a little nauseous, a little short of breath. Let's see, what else? Chest pain, no chest pain, but my torso felt weird. Some people describe it as a tightness in the chest. I described it as, I don't know, I feel really funky. That's what I kept saying. I didn't know how else to describe it, but something feels very different. Heartburn and indigestion could be a thing, excessive perspiration, headache, neck, shoulder, arm pain. Doesn't have to be arm pain either. My arms were very pleasantly tingling. It was a nice sensation. Right? So sometimes when you overdo it, marathons, you have a marathon runner reach the end, they might have a lot of this and it might just factor in their brain under, wow, I'm overdoing it or I overdid it. All I need to do is rest. Well, they're right about the rest. but it may be masking a more serious cardiac event. And that's why we have EMS on site. Turnout gear. Did everyone leave? Did all the firefighters leave? What we can do, Joanna, if there are people there who can take us to the turnout gear, can we aim for 10 o'clock to do that little field trip out to the garage? Great. So again, by fire department, Dale, correct me if I'm wrong, or Sean. How common is this terminology for different gear? Do different fire departments sometimes have different nicknames for things, or is it pretty standard terminology they use?
They refer to it as turnouts,
Turnouts, is all that.
but that's all right, yeah.
Okay. So we're going to be looking at that hopefully today, if we can get that going. The reason we don't have them stacked in here, which was my vision, we can have all these turnout gear here, and as you come in, you can look at it and try it on. Those things have been exposed to some hazardous chemicals. So of course, you still get to try them on if you want, but they didn't want them in here for contaminating. That's why when you go to the garage, when you come in here from the garage, there'll be a sign saying no PPE past this point. That's the reason for that sign. They don't want contamination coming into it. It's essentially an administrative training. So this is turnout gear, and there's a lot of it. We may have to wait till next week to try it on, but it's very heavy. It's not the most flexible thing in the world. It's meant to protect you from harm, but yeah, you don't feel super mobile in it. Hopefully you'll get a chance to get some little empathy for how the firefighters have to deal with this. All right, we're gonna keep going instead of taking a break. At 10 o'clock, in a few minutes, we're gonna take a break. I'll just finish my spiel. The incident scene. All right, these are the kind of things that the command on site are gonna consider for the danger level and how things were arranged, like the hot zone and the cold zone, and how close we can get to the fire. But these are the basic protocols that a fire response will do. Two big ones is fire support and fire attack, extinguishing the fire. Extinguishing the fire means engine work. So the guy working the engine may or may not have PPE on. He's not going to be in the hot zone. He's not going to be in the hot zone. So he can be a little more lax with PPE because he can be working on the truck a lot. Rescue, salvage, overhaul, ventilation, these are all different tasks that will be happening in the hot zone. So again, different tasks might be different levels of exhausting for the firefighters. These are something that the commander on site are going to take into consideration working with the rehab leader and determining, when we need to start sending, or when they need to start sending firefighters our way to rehab. All right. Carrie, we could start with you for a bit. Were they okay with doing it at 10?
Yeah.
10 o'clock? Okay.
Or, yeah. Unless I get called out. Well,
So no one light any fires between now and 10 o'clock.
well, I'll do.
Down arrow should be going next.
Depends
on how you hold it.
Oh, I'm holding it upside down.
No, there's no regrets. Okay, let's try that. Down. There you go.
There you go. Keep counting top. Okay, let me tell you just briefly, about my one and only experience with fire. Still don't want to. And it happened with CERT. When I took the CERT class back in '99, they asked me if I would be a CERT sector leader. And I thought, sure, nothing bad ever happens in Springville. And then next year I was sitting in my mom's backyard watching this fire on Springville's mountain. And I got a phone call that said they would like you to respond to this fire. And they said to tell you it's your sector. So all of a sudden, I was the leader for the CERT teams that showed up. And we worked our tails off. There was only maybe 30 CERT people that were active in Springville at the time. And when I deployed, they set us at the end of the street. And when I got there, the police were there and I thought, oh, well, they don't need us. And they said, oh, good, you're here. This is what I need you to do. And they had us keeping people out of that area. And we did that for a long time, like 5-6 hours. And I wasn't fighting the fire, but it was blazing in back of me and all this stuff was going on. And somebody came and said, okay, Carrie, it's time for you to go home. And I'm like, but I don't want to go home. This is really cool. I don't want to go home. And they said, too bad. You need to go home. Well, for the next week, we fed firefighters. We did roadblocks up at the canyon because they were bringing helicopters in to fill at the reservoir. And we took care of that for a week. And then we had a couple days break. And then on Father's Day, they were worried about flooding. It was raining like crazy. So we helped with the sandbagging. So they used CERT nonstop for almost 2 weeks. And it was funny because up until that point in time, Springville was treated as this cute little club. And after that, they were like, oh, you know what? There really may be some value to this. And I think that's the whole reason we're here, is they realize that CERT does have value. We're really an asset to the community. So we're going to talk a little bit about the rehab area, the location, the facilities, equipment and supplies and setup. Okay, you can change. We're going to protect them from the elements, whether it be hot or cold. Give them a little bit of refuge. Let them step away from the incident for a minute. Provide protection from prevailing environmental winds. I mean, you've got smoke. You've got exhaust from the fire trucks. There's toxins in the air. It keeps saying it's large enough to accommodate multiple crews and rehabilitation personnel. I don't know how many people will be able to get in our area at one time, but I don't think Springville's crews alone are overly huge crews. So I think we should be able to handle that just fine. But we're definitely going to be with, it says located near or with EMS. We're going to be with EMS in Springville because they're the ones who's going to be calling the shots for us. I don't know if anybody come around the back and seen our trailer and the truck out there, but we'll be setting up like this. If it becomes bad, if the wind shifts, we may have to pack everything up and move. If it's really big, they said there needs to be 2 of us. I don't know how that's going to happen, or we only have 1 trailer, but we may have to make do. We have other pop-up trailers. CERT has pop-up trailers. We may have to just kind of divide our equipment and our stuff and move someplace else if we need to. But this will be at the direction of the incident commander. We're going to have all kinds of goodies in our trailer. We're going to have a generator. I thought this was interesting. Mike was telling me that the chief was like, chairs aren't overly useful. Do you know why chairs aren't overly useful? Think how bulky you're going to be. I'm like, that's so smart. That's something I would have never, ever thought of. He said benches are a lot more practical for firefighters because there's just so much stuff. Right now, firefighters rehab in the cabs of their vehicles. So having a place for them to sit, blankets, coolers, heaters, ice heat packs, food. I mean, sugar levels fluctuate big time. Drinks, and we have a mister, coffee pots, pop-up awning, solar panels. It is on our wish list.
We're getting them.
We're getting them. Yay! Joanna does such a good job taking care of us. And let me tell you, we are so fortunate to actually have our fire chief and our police chief on board, because that was not the case. Back in the olden days, that's what I told Joanna. I say that a lot. If I start saying whippersnappers, you need to stop. But we used to be in the old fire department across the thing, and one CERT person back in the dawn of CERT put a black X on their door with a permanent magic marker. And that was the end of the CERT program's good standing with the fire department until we got Chief Clinton. So really grateful to have them here. They may need us to make a ice run, but we are not going to do that before we show up on scene. This is how we would like to set up. We are going to be right by EMS because are we going to be the ones evaluating these firefighters? No, we're not. So we need to be close to them. We're going to have the pop-up up front, the rehab, the trailer, and the fire ground. Mike was talking about the different zones. The hot zone, of course, we're going nowhere near that. This is where they're actually in there fighting the fires. The warm zone extends from that. I mean, just from the fire on the mountain where I was standing, just keeping people out of the area, I could feel the heat on my back, and I was a long way from that. And as Mike said, you're going to need a lot more protective equipment here than you are here, and even in the cold zone. So people can walk around the fire trucks and not have to have everything on them, but the closer they get this way, the more protective equipment they're going to put on and the more stress they're going to be under. We're in the no zone. We're less than cold. And are we going to stay there? Okay, we're all set up. Our first crew has come in, they've rehabbed and left, and now we're by ourselves. Are we going to wander down to one of these things and see what's going on because it's so interesting? We would like to. Came upon a fire in Mapleton with me and my mother, and I walked up to one of the firemen and I said, "Hey, I'm Carrie, I'm CERT trained. Is there anything I can help you with?" And he said, "Yes, we have got this lady who is in the way and she needs to be moved." It was my mother. And I was able to move her. It took an act of Congress, but I did. But it is as interesting and as exciting as it is. We need to stay put. We need to be part of the solution, not the problem.
The thing you gotta remember too is you may have multiple agents. But you might just not be just rehabbing Springville. If Spanish Fork comes, or Linden, or whoever, you may be rehabbing a lot more. So you may have, obviously, by the time they get there, you may have a second call. So you may get through rehabbing one department and your second department's coming in.
Well, or if you're up here standing and watching and they've sent one individual, you may miss them. So we need to be where we need to be, and we need to stay there and be part of the solution and not be part of the problem. Okay, now Greg? Oh, yes, go ahead.
Do they ever ask you to take these drinks over to that engine and?
If they're directing you to do that, that's completely different. I mean, if they're putting you, if you feel like you're in harm's way, we always have the option to say, you know what, I don't have the PPE for that. I don't feel safe doing that. But they may say, there's nobody here now. Can you run this up to the crew that's with the engine? If they're giving you an assignment, yes, because then they're going to know where you're at. But if you're wandering around, you're not doing what you're supposed to do, and you're going to be part of the problem and not the solution.
If they bring in different towns into the situation, they bring their CERT. They thought about bringing their sort of thing to do.
I'm not sure that they have.
Keep the question before you answer.
Oh, sure.
Not for rehab, they won't.
Yeah.
No, because they don't have an established rehab team, but they may bring co-ministers for other reasons, for search and rescue or for other things that they do. But for rehab specifically, we're the only, well, Lehigh has a team, but we're the only staff.
For the recording, can you repeat?
Okay. She just said, the question was, will they bring other rehab teams in or other trailers and that type of stuff? Is that the question?
Yeah.
And actually, as of right now, we're pretty much it. They may be able to bring in other CERT teams to help with other things. When I was doing the wing fire, we could really use support from other CERT teams because my poor people, I mean, out of 30 people, would have 5 people that we just used to death And it would have been nice to be able to rotate and to do a little mutual aid with CERT and be able to help other jurisdictions. That's why it's so exciting to see all the different people here. Before that was not allowed, so really happy about that. Okay, guess we'll go look at turnout gear.
The additional thing we want to consider for that.
Shade.
Yeah. But depending on the weather, if it's middle of summer,
Well, and another thing they just said, they talked about wind, there's toxins in the fire, and if you're downwind, you're gonna be getting those blown on, you wanna be upwind from it.
what other shelters or whatnot might be available in a neighborhood?
Some kind of tent, easy ups.
Tents, easy ups, garages, maybe the neighbor's yard, somebody's porch. You know, our trailer, I guess we're gonna have pop-up tents, so hopefully we won't have to find any alternatives, but if it is a bigger fire, like they mentioned, we need an additional team. These are things that we can consider as alternate locations. Kind of supplies do you want to have on hand? Water.
Gloves.
Yeah, seating, somewhere to take the load off. Sports drinks, you know, stuff with electrolytes. Food, keep those sugars in balance. You know, hand washing equipment when you're helping them with their gear. You know, if your gloves tear, you want to be able to wash those contaminants off. Portable toilets.
Yep.
Is that something that's going to be in the trailer? Like a little pop-up portable toilet?
Hopefully.
Hopefully there's a neighbor nearby that'll let firefighters or us use their bathroom.
Yeah.
Well, somebody else said garbage cans. Just a second ago, so that's something you wanna consider, so that they can dispose of it.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of trash.
At least garbage bags.
We have bags.
You know, I think we've covered so far why firefighters use rehab. You know, what the rehab area is gonna look like. And
Wildfire, you're gonna miss some wildfire.
oh, wildfires. You know, that's one thing I've been informed of is wildfires are not uncommon in Springville, especially up on the mountain. You know, a lot of the mountainside is a firework restricted area. People don't listen. And this mountain's been on fire a number of times. It wasn't too long ago. I was living in Provo at the time. The fire started in Springville and they were looking to do a evac to the neighborhood that I was in. So those are possibilities for things that we could be out on. And Carrie's can cover the process.
Okay, we're gonna try to get you out of here by 11, but we may go a teeny bit over. A lot of this is just review. So we already know we need reflective vests and gloves. Why did he say it was important to have gloves? Were you guys listening when he was out there talking?
Metal parts.
Yeah, and I'm like, I never thought of that. I thought that was really smart. Wouldn't hurt to have your hard hats with you. You don't necessarily need them. We're gonna try to avoid any smoke because you don't know what's burning. Whatever's burning, you don't want to breathe in. Exam gloves to remove firefighter gear. They said odds are right now we may not have to do that. They may not want us to do that. But if they do, we've just learned how to do that. So that was great. Do we need to remember to take care of ourselves? That's a biggie. And it's hard when you're in the midst of all this stuff. We're telling everybody else, rehab, 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 drink, 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 drink. We don't want you hydrated. But hydration is something that's super, super important for us too. So make sure if you've got a partner, watch them. Are they hydrating like they should? Because you really need to find the time to do that. It's crucial. Again, I think we gave you this standards on rehabilitation process. That's what this is based off of. One thing about CERT that Catherine brought up. Do we have a whole lot of authority? I mean, ICS is extremely crucial because it talks about chain of command and who's in charge of what. We are volunteers. When we put our gear on, it makes us look like we have a little bit of say, and people are more apt to follow what we tell them to do with our gear on. But if we have a firefighter that's coming over and giving us any problems, do we say, hey, you have to listen to me, you have to do what I say? We don't. We do not have the authority to do that. I mean, you may have to go over and say to our EMS group leader, you know what, I've been telling them they need to do this, and they won't. But that's not something we do. We don't get belligerent, we don't get loud, we don't have the authority. We're there assisting and helping them with what they need. So we never self-deploy. So if the fire's right around the street from your house, you don't just jump in the car and run down and say, I'm here. We really have to go through the process and make sure that we're being activated like we're supposed to. Like Joanna said, it's going to come through Everbridge. We want you, yes.
I just want to make a clarification. So that is signing up for information from the city in general. This group will be in a group that I create.
Okay,
so you can't sign up to be in this group.
Okay, but we really recommend, well, there's not that many of us Springville people here, so never mind, we'll skip through everybody.
But even if you're not from Springville, if you're from Winton, or if you're from, well, Mapleton is also Springville, or Everbridge, or if you're from Spanish, you do have Everbridge in your city that you can sign up for.
And it's wonderful, I love it. We get notifications all the time. Some people think it's a pain and they don't like that, but I like knowing what's going on, so.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
40 minutes to be on site,
And that's
not just to be here.
not just to
picking up
be
a trailer,
here.
right? Just clarify.
Yeah, 40 minutes to be actually set up with the trailer, the tents out, everything. So honestly, I would say people on Spanish Fork that live closer to us, Mapleton and Springville area, will probably be the first teams that come out. The other teams can come in and relieve us, and I think that would be wonderful. And we're still trying to figure out how to get the first team back to the fire station to pick up their cars, but we're gonna work this out. We'll get through it. This is my favorite part of the whole thing. We, when we are deployed, get to park in the red zone. I have never got to park in the red zone, so I'm really excited about that. You may want to mention to somebody when you get here that you're parked in the red zone and that it's okay, but they have authorized us to do that, so you don't have to come in from around the block someplace.
Could they make little placards?
That's what I was
Back
thinking,
window that say fire rehab or something?
If we, you can just do us,
That you put in your windshield.
yeah, I was gonna say, just give us a little vinyl sticker that says Springville Fire Rehab.
Pretty sure we can.
We'll figure something.
Yeah,
I don't
Look
think
at
we're
it,
at the
figure it out.
grocery store or anything.
Yeah.
though.
Yes, because I really
Yeah.
need to be excited and then come.
Because people might not be there to talk to.
Yeah.
Slide in there, you walk around.
After our background checks, they are going to let us know what the code is. They're gonna show us where the keys are. We're still working on confirmation on
Next week
that.
they'll be telling us.
Yeah, they'll be giving us this information next week. We're gonna have to hitch the trailer to the utility vehicle. If you haven't seen them, go out and see where they're at. They should be on the south end of the lot. Proceed to incident 1, code 1. Do we get to have lights and sirens and all the goodies? No. And do we have to obey traffic? Yes. Unfortunately, it's not exciting, but we want to get there safely. We're not going to do anybody any good if we're T-boned in an intersection someplace. So we really need to make sure that we're being safe. Yeah.
On the flip side of that, you're not doing the city any good if you hurt somebody else on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean,
slow it down, take a breath, get there safely.
safety is always CERT's primary concern. We want you to get home safe. We want everybody in the community to be safe. We want to be able to get there. It's not going to do anybody any good if I mean, even if nobody's injured, if we've made it so we can't get the trailer there. So we need to be safe. Yeah.
Side question from that, if this, we're talking about the hill up the canyon, whatever, and it's during winter time, if the truck has trouble navigating the road, snowstorm, do we have a place to try and mitigate those road concerns?
You have a radio to call and let it's a commander know what. They'll decide if they want you or not.
Yeah. The question was, well, what about adverse road conditions? Is there anything that can help mitigate with that? I mean, Springville's got plows. If we had to, we could probably divert some of them, but that's not something anybody would know if we didn't tell them. Apparently the fire trucks and stuff are gonna be there before we are, so they should be able to see what the conditions are and maybe help mitigate that before we even get to it. But that's why the radio is so important. We need to make sure that we're in communication and let them know where we're at, what we're doing, that kind of stuff. And we'll go into that more next week. As they said earlier, the driver drives, the leader operates the radio.
Do we have a designated call sign on the radio?
They will go over that with us next week. I believe we're just on their channel. So when we key in, it'll automatically go in and we'll just identify ourselves. We'll say, this is the Springville Fire Rehab team, looking for directions. Where are we supposed to go? Where do you want us to set up? And they'll communicate with us that way. We're not going to have to find our own area. I think initially in all the training that they did, it was kind of like, you guys go in and you set up. Well, Springville, our incident commander, is going to tell us where they want us, which is good.
That'd be easier.
Yeah, I mean, because that way everything's coordinated and it needs to be coordinated. So when we get close, we're gonna tell them, we're almost here. Where do you want us? And we're gonna park where they tell us. And we're going to be past the cool zone. So this is gonna be a safe area for us and for the firefighters. Who's our group leader? We've mentioned it a couple times, but it's been kind of sneakily thrown in there. Do you know who we report directly to? Yeah, our EMS will have a group lead. They're going to be the ones that are, let's see if this tells us. Yeah, they're going to tell us what to do. They'll tell us to set up benches. In this area, we kind of they're going to tell us what to do, what they want us to do. We're not going to assume that we're going to come in and fill out all the paperwork and we're going to be doing the medical stuff and taking their gear off. We will be doing what they ask us to do under their direction. But we'll be setting up the chairs and benches, turning on the heaters and the misters. We can distribute food and drink. When it's all done, and the fun stuff's over, then we pack everything back up and we return the trailer. We empty the trash, we lock it up and return the keys, and they restock and we rinse and repeat, get ready to do it again.
When you say they, who's they?
The fire department,
The fire department.
yeah, they're the ones that are responsible for keeping the trailer stocked and
So
all the.
was there a checkoff sheet and tell them what we've used, or you just go through them?
I think they'll probably just go in and say, looks like we've used 3 cases of Gatorade, we need some more Gatorade, and oh, we're out of my favorite granola bars, we better go get some more of those. So, yeah, we don't have to worry about getting it stocked at all. They're in charge of that. They know what they need and how much to give. Yeah.
Because we are good at documenting, are we in charge of documenting CERT's time, or is that going to be our command?
We should check in. We will be planning and setting out for sure.
Will they have the forms for us to do that? Because in the thing that I've read on this, it says EMS is in charge of all of that.
Now,
So
they may ask us down the road to help with documentation, but I thought Chief said for now.
yeah,
we're
so
not gonna
I
do
think
anything.
they'll have the documents when we get there. We'll have to sign in and we'll have to sign out. And it looked like from what I've seen that we're not responsible for signing the firefighters in and out either. That could change. I think it's a trust thing. I think if we get there and we're efficient and we're professional and we do things the way that they would like to see us do and we're thorough, they may say, you're not a cute little club anymore. We actually need you to do X, Y, and Z, and that frees our people up to do other things. So as of right now, our role once we get there is kind of minimal. We'll be supporting, we'll be, you know, moving the stuff off and on the trailers, bringing the water down, getting the ice, doing that kind of stuff. But it's crucial stuff, and I really think the more that we do this, the more they'll see what we can do, and they'll assign us more things.
So in general, if we showed up at the incident and the radios are busy, would it be better for us to report to that EMS truck in person and just say, where do you want us to park, where do you want us to? What do you want us to do?
They have told us that they will notify us by radio. I mean, and they're almost gonna have to, because when we show up, I'm not even gonna know where the fire is. So they're gonna have to give us direction to get there, and they'll probably be able to say, you know what, we've got these roads closed, so, you know, we'll let you in, or this is the way you need to get there. But I don't think the radios will be too busy, because it's not like a city thing. Not everybody's gonna be on it, it's just gonna be ICS and
They'll
dispatch.
cover communications more next week.
I'll take over next one.
Okay, Dale, did you have a question?
Yeah, the thing we have to remember is they have a centralized channel and they have a working channel. I imagine the working channel is what's gonna be, you're gonna do it. You're not gonna worry about that, because the incident commander is already gonna tell your EMS where to stage. EMS is gonna tell you where to stage. That's why it's so crucial that we follow the steps. Because if you have interagencies that come in, then that incident commander that is over all that scene knows where the rehab is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we'll cover this.
Okay, this is passive cooling. We're gonna help them remove their gear if they ask us to. We're not ever gonna walk up to somebody and just start taking their clothes off. We're gonna sit in a shaded, they're gonna sit in a shaded area. Hopefully there'll be cool drinks or iced fluids. And they said that's what they mostly do for Springville already. That's pretty much as far as they go, but they do it in the cabs of their vehicle. Active cooling situations, whenever there's potential for heat stress. After the second, tanks, like he said, where we can put wet towels on their head and neck, put them in front of the misters, or put them in the air conditioning area. Submerge hands and arms in water. I'm not sure if we're gonna have water for
We don't
that,
have those facilities now, but maybe.
but this is hopefully things that we may have down the road. The firefighters move, this is for getting them warm to a heated area protected from the elements. Only remove wet gear if there's a heated and warm dry area and dry clothing available. And we discussed that. Second you take that off, they're gonna chill. Encourage firefighters to drink warm fluid. Okay, we're gonna watch these guys. We may not be EMS, but we've been CERT trained. We know if somebody acts shocky or acts off a little bit, and hopefully, I mean, like they say, they go in partners. They should be watching each other, because these guys know what's normal for each other. And if they send somebody in and they seem off, hopefully they will let us know that and we can assist with that. But we may not be able to treat them, but we can observe them and see if something really feels off to us and nobody's noticing that, we need to bring it to EMS's attention. We're gonna watch for signs of cardiac event. You wanna?
Just
Okay.
review what we've learned.
This is what we've done. We've introduced, we've done the overview, we've done physiological threats to firefighters, incident scene, rehab area, and the rehab process. Wow, we really did get it. You have the rest of your Saturday. Is there any questions? Does anybody have? Yeah, Steve.
I've noticed several people taking pictures of the slides. The slide deck can be made available.
Yeah,
For the most part, it's in the book. There were just a few lists that I wanted to copy on my paper.
Yeah.
That's all.
I was gonna say,
we
we,
customized
all
it.
in here.
FEMA has a standard slideshow that we started with. We customized it quite a bit, and we'll share that link.
it's all top secret.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine, you know, if we're on a residential fire, these services could be available for the tenants of their home, right? Or we can help bring them in, provide. Yeah.
It's a good question for the chief.
Yeah,
No, that's a big question.
yeah, that's a good one, I'll bring it up. Yeah, the question was, is this available for inhabitants of this area? I worry about that just because of how much we have on the thing. And we need to make sure that it's available for the firefighters. When we did the wing fire, we had a bunch of stores in town brought us up tons of Gatorade and water and stuff for the people in those areas and for the people that were responding. So, and Red Cross comes and does stuff too, but that's a question for the chief, and we'll try to get an answer for that.
But we would be doing this for firefighters and probably the police too.
Uh-huh.
They're dispatched.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He said, would we be able, if police was on scene too, could we rehab them also? Yes, we can.
Am I correct in assuming that we should keep our chattiness level to mostly to strictly our job and our work, like a waiter would, rather than come up and ask questions about what's going on or anything like that?
We want to be a help.
Yeah.
First and foremost, right? But chattiness, that's a good point. On the
I think
radio,
it would depend on what they want to tell you. However, good night, I need a drink. I know when I go out with FEMA, what I see and experience in my disaster recovery center.
Train her down, get the EMT out of here, help him out.
I just trying to go back, sorry.
Sorry about that. But I think it's like when I go out with FEMA, I work in a disaster recovery center, and I'm seeing these people at the worst time of in all their lives. We hear a lot of stuff. We're not allowed to discuss that stuff anywhere else. If they want to talk to you, if they want to tell you what's going on, you can do that. When you go home, if you want to talk in generals to your family, you can do that. But as far as going out and giving intimate details on everything that's going on and who was there and what was there and what was said, I would assume, like it is with us, you just don't do that.
Yeah, and I sort of meant more, if you've got firefighters there, should you initiate any conversations with them?
I think I'd let them lead. Most of them will probably want to talk to you.
Well, that's what they said out there, is talk to them, you know.
Yeah, well, and how are you gonna know if they're off if you're not talking to them?
In your psychology unit in CERT, you know, it does go over making sure that you can ask them some questions for how in tune they are for the evaluation needs and their needs. So remember some of those questions. You don't ask things like, you know, what's your favorite color? You don't know that, and it's not relevant. But you know, if you do see concern, you know, sure that you have those skills.
We'll go Joanna first and then here and here.
I just want to make sure that we are kind of on the same understanding. If a firefighter comes to you and you're rehab, yeah, and that's talk to them, you know, whatever feels like it's the right thing to do. But we're not gonna go over and go, hey, how's the fire going? What's happening? Are we gonna be on the news? I mean, like,
Yeah,
right, we are in our section.
yes, don't be my mother.
Don't be Carrie's mother.
Yeah.
I imagine it's chief, what can we best do to assist you, and then do whatever they tell you.
Well, you'll run the inside command system, you have one person that can speak for the HR boss. And that's the person that you can say, well, here's anything else you need us to do. We're not asking other firefighters or Davidson when they show up, but we're not asking random people. We have one person the instant command system, one person we report to, and that's the one person we can talk to for those kinds of things.
And also for radio communication, I hope it goes without saying, it's not ham radio, you're not gonna rag chew. You're going to be very specific in your communications. For chatting as a team, we haven't really talked through this, but I could see using the Springville chat telegram just for the team discussion about what's going on, so you could leave the channels for the fire completely alone for some of that team level chat.
Good idea. Okay, your question.
Yeah, do we have any integration with the peer support teams for the fire or police? That's where we've been sending something needed someone to talk to, is to the peer support.
I know Springville, with their firefighters and stuff, they have a really strong support group with that. And I think if there was a need for that, we could probably tap into that program. But as far as something that's been given to us right now, I don't think we have anything along those lines.
We had a contact point for the peer support coordinator that we could just.
Now, I think our EMS people will be the ones that are handling that. And I think if we needed it for us, we could ask them and they could get it for us too. We'll find out for sure. Yeah, I don't know for sure. That's something, like I say, this is also new. We're still figuring things out, so. Well, and if they have 10 minutes when they're there, because they talked about 10 minutes, right? I'm not confusing that.
10 or 20.
10 to 20, depending on the, yeah,
But that
circumstance.
10 minutes, they're gonna be stripping down that gear, and you're gonna be giving them a drink, talk to them, what can I grab for you? And then they got you packed up, that 10 minutes goes fast. So you're not gonna have time to get overly involved really in the situation.
I agree. I agree. And like I say, he said they go through tanks at different rates. So we may have a bunch in all at once, or we may have them in at like 10-minute intervals. But I think we'll stay pretty busy just making sure that they have the things they need and helping them with what they need. Okay. All right, next week, dress for the weather. Okay, thanks, guys.
So much.
Make sure that you signed in if you haven't already.
Is there a sign out?
You don't? Okay, can I get?
Well,
your
there's a sign
email?
out box, we don't,
Like,
everybody's.
email.